Self, brain, mind, body. Every so often I party with my wolf and hang out with my service animal and we have like dance parties and I start shaking and dancing and rock and rolling and they start moving like the zebra. With my brain mostly. And don't get emotional when I see myself in a video such as, happy. I am happy. I am that. I am already aware of my happiness. Mostly because I don't date online. I don't live in a part of the country or maybe world where I can say hi to a stranger or I can not talk to another girl or, whoever and still get motivated to, buy nice clothes, do nice hairdos and stuff and look fancy. So I prefer mostly, I just would rather stare at, consciousness and be consciously aware and pay attention to what I'm consciously seeing and hearing, observing in the world. And so the self, brain, mind, and body are fast thinking once in a while. Oh, you're thinking about what you got to do, you're listening to yourself. Some people will say, therapists, you're listening to yourself, doing what they're saying, and none of it's accomplishing your goal of maybe having less emotion, maybe having less worry, panic, despair, however you want to describe what's occurring. And these are some of the frustrations with trying to use terminology for psychology. Psychological cognition lets the brain, body, and mind work optimally, work better, work safely in the world. So I think some benefit for the self, okay. And then there's that fast thinking, and no matter how much you listen to yourself, you can't calm yourself down. No matter how much you do in the mirror to go, well, you either got to ask that person out on a date you're getting ready for on Tinder or Match.com or eHarmony and really look fancy, dancy, and schmancy for the tech, not to be too rude, but the technology gazillionaire in Seattle who goes on dates all the time. Or recognize, maybe kind of like me, for example, well, I'm not, looking in the mirror to get dressed up. There ain't no one. The pretty girl next door, she hits a wall when I turn the heat on, and the other lady over there, she's sweet but older and stuff, and I'd say first and foremost, you got to have respect around the other gender or the same gender, whoever you're dating. Dating is at a higher level because then you start to get babies and you start to get, hormones and emotions, and then even more than thinking too much and not being able to calm yourself down. You know, looking in the mirror, and for me right now, it's like, okay, I could make videos all night to see myself in the video, because standing in the mirror in the bathroom might be kind of awkward. But I'm also fortunate enough to not have that self satisfaction of seeing my body and loving myself in the mere reflection of my image in the camera's screen, on the camera's screen. So, you know, I cover up stuff with the zebra because I find humor, and those are, you know, those are good chemicals. Laughing, loving, succeeding, reaching a goal. Much better than finding a drug dealer to give you some gross, disgusting, house-grown weed. Or some bathtub crack. So seeing the self, brain, body, mind, hearing the self, you know, talking to yourself. For stand-up comedy, you know, every so often makes people laugh, and then, you know, every so often makes people call the police and gets a person in trouble like me because they say, well, he's suicidal. You know, I heard something suicidal. And starts to become social. There's no awareness, there's no attention for music, making music, listening to music, and plain old voyeurism, spying, whatever, you know, listening to your neighbor through a wall. To feel safe, you know, for the example given, the person was trying to feel more safe listening to the neighbor through the wall and getting the police to calm them down. Myself, me. And you know, you can listen to yourself try to get rid of the zebra, you know. I'm like, oh, I gotta get rid of the zebra. Someone's really gonna think I'm nuts, you know. And okay. But then you're doing a decision and a choice with a system and a process involving your mind, brain, and then body to do what I just did. Move the object away. So it's out of your, you know, craziness. You know, like, well, you start to like throw stuff once in a while, you know, and then I'm like, oh, I need some coffee, or, you know, I have a self-realization about coffee, and I'm like, oh, I'll focus again, I promise. I'll focus and concentrate. Rather than a more metacognitive evaluation, what's occurring, awareness, and then attention. Oh, there's a little bit of difference. But the system and the processes aren't listening to the self, doing, and then the system and the processes are as simple as practice, habit, and decision making. Clear, concise, you know, with something like coffee or like food cooking, where you're like, I know I'm getting that reward soon. I've been working hard on school stuff, and this was my Sunday day off. And memory. starting to keep track of mistakes. Mistakes maybe trying to write down stuff in a journal too much about a color causing distraction and making life not fun. And not to, poke fun, causing depression, sadness, weight gain, medicine need, and more and more and more to do and complete and to get healthy. Self, mind, brain, body have benefits but have limitations, especially when, as a similar example, I get the wall hit for turning on that heat, but the person over there who hits the wall, and the landlord downstairs don't come together with me, myself, in this apartment to find out how to fix the sound, how to make calm for two different residences. Hypothetically, oh, it's mechanical. Okay, let's fix it now that we know. Or tragically, there are objects hitting that wall from the resident next door. The problem can keep going, and we can do cognitive behavioral therapy, behavior modification. I mean, we can go really in depth with writing stuff down and keeping track in journals of our emotions during these experiences and these problems, and we can really go talk to our neighbors next door, and we can be social with the people in the recreational room. As a similar system and processes as the body, brain, and mind, and specifically the self, mind, and body and brain. Talking to self, talking to self, talking to self, doing stuff to self, what occurs, just like everything else in the world, there aren't one manufacturer for airplanes. There's not one branch of military. There's Skunk Works, there's the United States Navy SEALs, there's the United States Army Green Beret military force, there's the United States Air Force, there's the United States Marine Corps, there's the United States Space Force. There isn't a sound on the wall coming from nowhere. There aren't a button, a neighbor, and no options or choices to make to get the landlord, the neighbor, and the neighbor together to solve the problem of the sound and figure out how to resolve the noise to stay warm and survive during the winter in a place where it gets cold and during flu season. So self gets these problems solved. Self, gives us different businesses, but time keeps the self, mind, and body and brain together.